Okay. So yeah, if you're just joining and you didn't hear my intro before and you're not sure who I am, I'm Sabrina and I'm one of the IDs on the team. But today we're going to talk about the portfolio website building on Claude Design. So my video on Tuesday walked through the full process of building it from the prompt all the way to hosting it on Devlin.host. And if you didn't watch that video, that's okay. You're not going to feel behind or lost. We'll talk a little bit about what that video covered at first, and then we'll talk about getting into actually like Claude Design, how to answer questions so that Claude Design can build a portfolio website for you. We'll make some edits to one that I built together. I'll take some suggestions from you guys to help me fix it up. And then we'll talk about how to do a really good quality assurance check before you export it, the website. And I'll even give you some prompts that will be helpful to like fix anything up, like the copy or the visual design or anything like that. So I'll share all of that stuff with you too. And then we'll take some questions. So as I'm going through stuff, feel free to put your questions in the chat. I'll try to answer some of those as we're going through pieces, and then we'll definitely save time at the end for a question and answer session. All right. All right, so like I said, on Tuesday, a video came out where I showed the full build process of how to make a portfolio website on Claude Design. We went through all these pieces. So starting in Claude Design with the prompt, answering some consultation questions, generating the portfolio, editing your portfolio, exporting it, and hosting it on Devlin AI or Devlin.host. I'm going to go through each of these pieces and kind of show you. So if you're not familiar with Claude Design, this is kind of what it looks like when you jump in. We use this prototype feature to build the website as our template. This is what kind of makes it clickable and interactive. And all we do is we take the prompts and push them into Claude Design. So the prompts that we already made for you, I made through lots of different testing, and we can share those with you as well. I'll go ahead and share those now. So hopefully that popped up and you can see them. But we have this package of prompts. So the first thing we have here is a build prompt, and you have directions and some notes. But this prompt takes you through everything to build the website. So there are different steps that Claude's going to follow. And when we build it, all we do is we drop that prompt into Claude Design, make sure prototype is selected, and send it. And the first thing that's going to happen is Claude is going to ask you questions. So if you're looking at the prompt, you'll see here, step 1 is ask questions. Claude kind of acts like a website building consultant, and it's going to learn more about you to build a proper portfolio website that represents you. So when you are answering these consultation questions, it's going to ask you some basic stuff like your name, the site structure, if you have any like visuals or images or stuff that you've already written that you wanted added in. And it's going to take all that into consideration. But like the important piece is Claude will not design anything when you give it the first prompt. It's not just going to make something generic. It's going to ask you something to learn more about you. So here's kind of an example where I just ran the prompt. And you see the questions here. So it's asking for your name, the site structure. You can do a one-page portfolio where everything's like on the home page and you have separate page write-ups, or multiple page. You can describe what you want or let it decide, tone and feel. The question, like what makes your work distinctive, design loves and hates, that's my favorite question. And then your assets and then anything else. This is a good one at the end. We'll talk about how to make these questions, your responses to these questions really strong so that the first draft is strong too. Yeah, so you'll answer those questions, you generate the portfolio, and based on your answers, Claude's going to decide if it does a one page. So like you see here, index is our home page with everything on it. Project write-up is the write-up page where we have like the problem, the solution, things like that. Or if you tell it a multi-page, it's going to build everything on a separate page. And one thing I like that it does, you'll see here like site nav, site footer. Those are pieces that get reused throughout the website, right? Always at the top and bottom. And it makes it really nice if you edit one of those, it does it across your whole website, so you don't have to go through every page and do it. So Claude actually makes things pretty nice to edit. The build prompt too, if you wanted to read through and look through all of it, it includes some information about technical requirements. So through my testing, I went through a lot of trial and error. For example, like the hovers on the buttons weren't working as expected. And it turned out that Claude needed some special like little code to put in to overwrite so that hover states worked. Or the LinkedIn link wouldn't open even when I published. And so there was something else that it needed to say. So there's lots of like little technical pieces that are not things that I considered because I'm not a website developer. But as I was working with Claude through these different trials, it found all of these things. So now those are all baked into the prompt, so you don't have to worry about them either. And you can just prompt and get a website. So let me go back to my screen sharing. And then it's going to create a website, right? You're going to have something that looks like this. It's going to, well, maybe not like this if you don't have all of your assets, but it's going to create something. And then the next thing is to edit that portfolio. And again, we're going to go through all these steps a little bit slower later. I just want to summarize what went on in the video. So if you want the more details, you can check out that video, but we're going to do some of it in this event too. But yeah, so then you just edit the portfolio by telling Claude what you want. You just describe it, even send it screenshots. And when you're ready to export, that prompt that we just shared also has 2 export options. And I explained these more in the video, but I'll give you a quick rundown. So the first one is a zipped HTML package. So if you do a multi-page site, it has lots of pages that we have to package together to send out. If you do a zipped multi-page like package, there's like a small flicker between the pages when you navigate. It's not any different than navigating a normal website and you see that like little load in between. Not a big deal. It's nice. It's a nice option because Claude will keep your pages separate to make them easy to edit. But if you don't want any flicker, then a single file HTML is a good option to go with. So my recommendation would actually be just try both, export them both and see which one you like better, and then go with that one for your final. All it is changing is that final export at the end. So not really a big deal. You can choose what works best for you. And then when it's time to host, this is also super easy if you're hosting on Devlin.host, which I recommend for a lot of reasons. It's easy to use, it's affordable. You can put all your projects in one spot with your website. So it's really nice. But all you do is you're going to go to Devlin.host, and I'll just show you on here. Up here, we have a publishing tab, and then you'll find the hosting. You upload the project. So you just find, so here I just did a zipped package. You open it, and then within just a few seconds, you'll have a link. And there we go. We have a link to our website. I can open it and I can show you, there's our website. We can go to featured. We can go to our project. There's that little flicker that I was telling you about. So hosting it on Devlin.host makes it super easy. But not only is it easy to host, you can also add a custom domain. So if you are just on the free tier, they'll all end in Devlin.host, and you can change the beginning. So if it was like, probably not my portfolio, right? I'd want to be more specific with like Sabrina Gonzalez portfolio or something like that. And then it'll just end in Devlin.host. So you can host like that for free, or you can add a custom domain with our starter tier. And setting that up is also very easy. And I can create like a path to this portfolio, or I can make it like the main page. So I don't have to have that Devlin.host at the end. I can just make it my own domain as well. So again, the video goes through all of this stuff more in depth, but we're going to focus on getting a good first draft and how to edit things. All right. So the first thing though is I have a question for you guys. So chat, what makes a strong portfolio website, ID portfolio website? Let me know in the chat. What do you think makes a strong website? Differentiators, yes, standing out. Those work samples, yes, showing that you're solving real world problems. Yes, clean and not too crowded, demonstrated skill levels, a variety of skills, those work samples, business impact, yes. Explanation of your design thinking. Yes, you don't want to just show what we're building, but why did we build it? Personality, yes, you don't just want your website to look like everyone else's. Not overwhelming, simple to the point. 2026 ready, good. Nice. All right, you guys are all on the right track. So yeah, a strong instructional design portfolio is not just like your business card, right? It's kind of is, but so much more. It needs to be very clear, which some of you guys already nailed this. Visitors need to quickly know who you are and what you do, right? They don't want to jump on your website and see a whole bunch of different things, and they're not really even sure if they've found the right person. They want to make sure that if they landed on your website, you can do what they need you to do. So it needs to be clear, easy to navigate. So not just like the featured section, the featured button takes you to a featured section and the about takes you to the about page, but also like, are your projects easy to find? That strongest one, right? When we're building our website, we should think if people are only going to look at one project, which project is it, and is it easy for them to get there? So making sure that that is easy to find is important. Someone said this, making sure it's specific, that it doesn't sound like everyone else's. I am guilty of this on my own portfolio website, but I'm sure you've seen it too, seeing lots of I design or create engaging learning experiences. I got fancy and I said captivating instead of engaging, but it's the same thing, right? We want it to not sound like every other portfolio. So this process will help you do that. Credibility. So a lot of you said this too, that we're not just talking about what we built, but why we built it. So making sure we're showing those like design decisions and the process that we went through, not just showing off the tools that we used. And then professional, right? It is showing that impact that we make. The visual design is clean. The writing sounds good. The links work. The mobile experience is good. The first thing some people may see of your work is your website. And so you don't want that to be a barrier or for them to relate what that website looks like if it's not done well to the kind of work you do, because your work may be amazing, but your website was not great to navigate. So you don't want them to associate that with your work. So we make that portfolio strong so that they know we always do strong work. Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. With our portfolio websites, these are the main things that we want to help people answer, and it kind of mirrors what I just said. So when someone looks on it, they should be able to answer these questions, right? Who is this person? What kind of ID work do they create? So if you specialize in job aids or e-learning or the scenario-based e-learning, right? You want to show that. Does that answer the question? What is your strongest project? Again, if people are only going to see one piece of work on your portfolio, which one is it? And is it your strongest one? Can they understand the process? So being conversational in how you're describing how you do things, but also just showing like a clear thought process on why you made certain decisions. And then this one, you want your whole portfolio to kind of display this, right? Do they seem thoughtful, capable, and professional? So are you coming across that way with your portfolio? And of course, if they find all of those answers, they want to be able to contact you or view more of your work. So you want to make sure that that is an available option to them as well. All right. So I have another question for you. In the chat, let me know, when someone lands on your portfolio, what do you want them to understand about you in the first 10 seconds, right? Like I said, this may be the first thing that they see of your work. What do you want people to know about you when they first land on your portfolio website? Let me know. What you do, that you're capable of solving their problems. Nice. What else? What do you want people to know? That you're professional. Good. Yeah, see some personality for sure. Your niche. Nice. Yes, knowing more about your experience, your creativity. Authenticity, yes. Professional summary. Admiring the design of my page. I feel that in my soul. Same thing. How you can help by demonstrating your work. Yeah. So for me, when someone lands on my page, I really want them to know about the kind of work that I'm passionate about doing, right? If you've seen some of my videos on Devlin's channel, or have even checked out my own portfolio website, you know that I really like scenario-based learning. I like the storytelling. I like building immersive worlds. And I've really been into using AI lately. But all of that is still backed by like sound instructional strategy. So when someone lands on my page, I want them to know that I am using instructional strategy when I start with a performance problem, that I'm not just building something to build it. I'm very focused on the visual design to remove any barriers for learners, that they're not hunting for a button or looking for what they're supposed to do. It's very clear as they navigate. And I want them to know that I'm using AI. So those are things that I want to come across in my portfolio. So how I do that, or how we all do that, is with that value statement in our website. So right in the, oops, I tried to share my screen and then I canceled it. That doesn't help you guys see it. So we want them to see it in that, like right when we land on it, that hero section, our value statement. And the nice thing is the prompt that I showed you guys and those questions are all going to help you do that. So like I said, Claude starts off as like this website building consultant, right? We're just going to ask you these questions. This is the big one. What makes your ID work distinctive? That's who you are. That's what you do. That's how we personalize this portfolio. So this is the big question to answer, but really answering all of these questions really well and thoughtfully on the first try is what's going to make that first draft so much better, sound like you, and save you some work on the editing later on. So how can you answer those questions thoughtfully? Oh yeah, testimonials are also good. Those are helpful too in showing people what you're good at, right? All right, so strong versus weak consultation. The better your responses are, like I said, the better your first draft's going to be. This is going to save you time with editing. And it's also totally okay if you don't have all the answers right away. You'll still have a strong start. I did build one template with Claude Design where I didn't answer any of the questions. I told it I don't have anything, but I know that I want it to be like a dark mode website. And that's really all I told it, and said, do whatever. I still got a really solid template, but it was just that. It was a template. It didn't feel like me. It didn't sound like me. There were lots of placeholders everywhere also, so I needed to fill those in, but it didn't really feel like me. So had I answered the questions, it probably would have felt more like me. And we're going to talk about how to answer those questions exactly. Okay, so the first one is the name, right? A weak response, if I just put in my first and last name, that's fine. It's going to put it in the nav bar. Totally okay. That's an acceptable response, probably not weak, but it's acceptable. Being more specific is going to be helpful. So if I say my name, but if my logo that I'm giving it, the like image already has my name, I don't want it to have my logo and then say Sabrina Gonzalez and then Sabrina Gonzalez again. That's redundant. So just making sure Claude has all the information is important. Site structure. Letting Claude decide for you, it'll create something nice, but you can be specific. So maybe something like, I want a multi-page site, contact banner at the bottom of every page except for the contact page, right? We want to draw people to contact us. The about page should have a section for the skills and the tools I use. The write-up pages should always end with a call to action to try the project. So some kind of banner that tells them to try it out, right? If you already have some ideas, this is a good spot to put them in that site structure question, really telling Claude what you want. And it is just as simple as describing it. It gets it pretty close on the first try, and then you can just adjust from there. Tone and feel, this is another one. If you don't like websites that are like very like bright and loud, then you want to tell Claude that that's not what you want. So don't let it decide for you. Tell it you want something like clean, modern, warm. I want the site to feel polished enough for corporate L&D teams, but not cold or overly formal, right? Because sometimes when you tell AI corporate, it gets very rigid, but you can say that you don't want it overly formal and cold. Say like you want lots of spacing, which I saw someone say not feeling crowded. So yeah, saying you want it to be a lot of spacing, simple layouts, soft accent colors that aren't pulling a ton of attention, clear typography. So this is pretty specific. Again, if you just have general ideas, and for this question, there are some like choices that you can have, but you can also describe more as well. So if you have some ideas, describe them. This is the time to do it. And it's okay if you hate what it makes, right? You just tell us something else instead. So your ID work, we don't want to say we create engaging e-learning. And again, I said captivating e-learning. So I'm guilty of this too. But stronger, we really want to tell people what we do. So something like I create scenario-based e-learning experiences that help customer service teams, right? Being specific about who we help, practice realistic conversations, what we help them do, make better decisions on the job. I design user interfaces that are easy for learners to navigate so they can focus on the task, not searching for a button. So you can kind of see how that mirrors what I was saying earlier, that I want people to know that I do. The reason we can be specific here, or the reason we want to be specific here, is Claude is going to use this throughout the whole website. So it can help draft some of that hero text, like right when you land on the page where your picture is. This stuff here, it can help draft it based on what you tell it about your ID work, but it's also going to carry that throughout your website. One of the tests that I did, I told it that I target like healthcare clients, that's who I like to work with. And so it changed a lot of the language so that it would make sense to that audience. So if you're very specific here, it's going to help put that throughout your entire website. Again, helping target your audience and sound more like you, which is the next part here. So if I did just say healthcare, it's going to help with that language, but I can be more specific, like L&D teams at hospitals, healthcare systems, medical device companies that need engaging learning experiences for clinicians, support staff, and new hires. So you can get more specific about your audience if you know who that is, but it's okay if it is a little bit more broad. It's going to help you no matter what. but stronger answers will help feel more targeted on your portfolio. The design preferences is definitely one of my favorite questions. So something weak would be just make it look good. Is Claude going to do that if you tell it to? Yeah, for sure. it will say that. But being more specific, again, repeating some of those pieces that you want, minimal layout. So nothing with like feeling very busy, but just very simple layouts. Large project images, really drawing those ideas. Subtle animations, not things flying all over. Clear navigation, not bright gradients, overly playful icons, or anything that feels too trendy, right? So if I didn't feel like those things represented me, then this is where I need to tell Claude, don't do those, because it's just going to try to create whatever. But if I know what I want, then I should tell Claude that. So that's where those are coming from. And then, like I said, the last question, is this anything else, which is my favorite, because this is where you're going to add in branding if you have it, if you know a font you want to use. And even if you don't know the font, you can describe it and say, like, you want something that feels a little bit rounder and softer, or something that feels very professional, and it'll pick something for you. Or if you have details or links, or if there's just anything else that you wanted to consider. So a weak response would be, I don't really like decorative fonts. Okay, that gets rid of one option, but stronger would be really thinking things out. So so the brand colors, I saw testimonials in the chat. We'll talk about those too, adding those in. But yeah, adding brand colors, talking about a font that you may want. Like I said, either choosing one specifically or describing it will be good. And then if you already have a portfolio website, or you know how many projects you want to put on, describing that here. So I was telling it, like, I already have this many projects and one in progress. Use placeholders for the third. I don't have professional photos yet, so clearly label placeholders. The prompt that I give you here already knows to label those placeholders clearly, so no worries about that. Yeah, use placeholders for the photos, testimonials, but being very specific. That's just the point that I'm trying to drive here, is in these questions, when you go through this questionnaire, taking your time to answer them really thoroughly the first time is just going to help save some of that editing time later. But again, you don't have to have all the answers. And if you do answer them kind of vaguely, it's still going to give you a very good output. It's just not going to sound like you just yet, which then means we'll have to do some prompting to make it a little bit more targeted. So that's where we're headed next. So let's actually go into Claude Design and let's edit this portfolio website. So this is the portfolio website that I built in the YouTube video. I did ask it to feel more professional and more corporate. And I did choose the font that I wanted to use. So that's kind of what we're seeing here. I'll just show you some of the sections, but I would love to hear from you guys if you have recommendations for changes. I'll show you the write-up page too if you want to see that. Any thoughts? Any changes? Okay, colored banners to break up those sections. Okay. All right, so we want to add a background color to the hero section. Okay, well, our brand color is this green, this jade green color. Maybe we do that and have it switch it up. So it really is as simple as telling Claude what to do. What I like to do is I will tell it what we're working on. So I'll say, here, let me make this bigger actually, so you guys can see what I'm typing. I'll label, I'll say hero section so that it knows which section I'm talking about. And then I'll say, I want the background to be the brand color. Change the text so that it is still visible on this background. Only change the background of the hero section. Okay, so we want to be very specific about what we wanted to change. It did turn it to mobile here since I'm so zoomed in. Let's do this. That way we can still see it. And what I recommend too when you're doing these changes, I think go through all of it and think about all the changes you want and put them into one prompt when you send it. For this demo, I'm going to just do this one so that we're not waiting here for forever for it to go through. So I'm going to send this, and what we're going to hopefully see is a stronger color in the background section of our hero. And then this text should change so that it's legible. Yeah, I saw someone asking about the font being off black. It's kind of hard to read, right? That's definitely probably something and Cheryl mentioned it here, a stronger font. Yeah, I think stronger color here, right? It needs to be darker. So while this is doing its thing, okay, never mind. It just did it. So when you have a smaller piece, it does change it pretty quick. When you do a longer prompt, it does take a little bit longer, of course, because it's thinking and working through everything. Changing a background color was pretty simple, but it did make those changes like we wanted. Now the font here, like you guys were mentioning, is kind of light. It's a little bit harder to see. I could tell Claude, make this darker. And that might not be a bad idea, right? Because this isn't the only place that I have body text. But if it's a quick change, something that's easy to do is up here is an edit feature where you can make direct edits. So if I press edit and click into this section, there's lots of options, right? The simple one is simple on purpose, where we can just come in here and change the color. So if I already have hex codes, I can do that, or I can move this where I want it to be, and then I can save it. So it did darken that text. And like I said, I'm a little zoomed out. It did darken it, but maybe that's still not great. And instead of me testing things out, I can just ask Claude and say, I want all of the body text to be more visible. Right now, it's too light and gets lost on the page. Okay, and larger. Make the body text a few pixels larger. If I prompt Claude while it's still thinking, it doesn't really interrupt it. It's just going to go through those chats, those messages that I send as they come in, and it's going to change things. So the main culprit, it is seeing that there was some lighter text and then to what I changed it to. So it's going to change everything to what I already darkened it to. Ooh, good questions about mobile. Nice. Yeah, I will talk about that. All right, so we have bigger font now. It is still, they're using that 252525. Could probably go darker, maybe not pure black, but darker. So yeah, that's looking a little bit better. Oh, something that I want to show you guys, maybe about the about section. This is one of the cool things about Claude. If there is something you really like about another website, you can give Claude a screenshot and tell it that you want a layout similar. So if I do like web design layouts, I could be more specific about what I'm looking for exactly, like an about or something like that. Let's see this one. No, let's do sorry, I should have just did an about me. But maybe I like this. I can go ahead and screenshot this, bring it over to Claude and say, let's redo my about section. Like the attached image. Now, what if I hate it? What if it doesn't work? I can say, try it on a totally new page. Then this homepage that I've created will stay on its own, but it's going to try this new layout that I wanted to try on a new page, and then I can decide. And it will even ask, Like if you want it, we'll implement it. And if not, then it's fine. The page just exists somewhere else and you can delete it later on. While that's thinking, I see some stuff about mobile. So how do you test for mobile? Well, as you saw, as I was zooming in, it does switch to mobile, but there are other options on how to do that. So the prompt that I shared with you, the build prompt, it does, I think it's down here. It does talk about the navigation for mobile, that hamburger 3-bar menu. Claude automatically for websites does think about the like mobile setup, but if you wanted to check it out, oh, well, it's still working on that. You can come up here to present and then go to new tab. Let me zoom back out so we see it normally. Here's our website and it's going to just look as we expect it. Then I can click anywhere. I'm going to right click and go to inspect. This is going to take me to the developer tools. And up here at the very top, it's kind of small, but I hope you can see it. You'll see dimensions and it'll say responsiveness. This is where you can check mobile. So you can shrink it. You can even choose the specific device that you wanted to look at it on. So I saw some even saying for like tablet. So you can choose a device, but you can also just use this to check and you can see what's working. So for example, if I did want to see what it looks like on an iPhone 12 Pro, my logo is getting a little bit tight. So maybe I give Claude just the monogram part of my logo and say, when you switch to mobile or smaller breakpoints, change to this logo, and it will do that. But here's where you can see how things are working and functioning. Like that jumpiness may not be something you want to deal with, right, on mobile. So then you can target that specifically. Say on mobile in the testimonial section, the section is moving. I want to fix that. You can even give it screenshots and tell Claude, use this instead, or here's the issue. But let's go ahead and see what it did for that about section. So again, for reference, this was the image that I shared with it. And here's what it did. So it did rebuild it pretty much exactly. And then just made it my brand color. And it swapped out the phone for LinkedIn. That's, I guess, what it said here was phone. But since I gave it LinkedIn instead. This doesn't really say a lot about me. This may not be a bad contact section, right? So maybe I can tell it to do that for contact. Okay. I see. Let me see some questions. Can Claude be used in place of Rise 360? I've not experimented with that myself, but what I have seen being shared on LinkedIn, it does look like it can do that. I created a software simulation and it worked really well. And that I was able to host, again, on Devlin, SCORM wrap to make it like LMS ready. But for a Rise course, I definitely think it can probably do that because you're building the different sections and you can add the interactivity when you use like the prototype template feature in Claude Design. So there's probably possibilities. And yeah, using SCORMwrap.com, which is on here, I'll show you. I'll show you that real quick. Or you may have seen Devlin's video too of how to SCORM wrap something from here. But yeah, you can do that. Let me get back so I can share my screen. But yeah, if you go to SCORMwrap.com, it will bring you to this publishing, and you can just download whatever you build in Claude Design, drop it in here, and it will package it into an LMS package. But if you just wanted it to be like a project that you would host somewhere else, then you can just use hosting. Again, export it as an HTML single file or package, and then drop it into here for hosting. So you could build something similar to Rise on Claude Design and then host it here or share it from here as well. So that is a possibility for sure. Okay, let's see. What else? Do we have any? SCORM wrap is free. Hosting on Devlin AI is also free. It's going to have that. So like this one here, well, either of these actually, if you see the ending, the devlin.host, you can host for free and it's going to have that ending. If you want your own custom domain, you can use the starter tier, which we are going to talk about at the end, but it is much more affordable. It is, let's see, I can probably get to, since I'm logged in, we're going to talk about the starter tier also. Let's see, I can just show you right now, since there are questions about that. Yeah, so the starter tier, if you did, so like I said, you can host for free, you can use SCORM wrap for free. So this tool here, SCORM wrap, turning any of those like HTML projects into LMS ready packages, that is a free tool that everyone can use. You can go to scormwrap.com. If you want to host a project separately or like your portfolio website, again, it'll end in devlin.host. That is free. But if you want your own custom domain, then you can consider the starter tier. Go to devlin.host. It'll tell you more about it. But it is good if you are just building out your portfolio website or you want to try Devlin AI, because also on Devlin AI, we have the like AI simulations that you can build as well. So you get some credits to try that out. Like I said, you can host your portfolio and your courses all on Devlin AI. You can connect a custom domain. You even get access to the voice mode simulations. So not just the text-based simulations, but the voice ones too. And it is $6 per month if you pay annually, or $9 per month if you pay monthly. If you watched my video on Tuesday, I did a breakdown comparison of building a website on Claude Design and Devlin AI versus like building on Squarespace. And the upkeep for a year is drastically different. Using Claude Design and Devlin AI and like paying for those subscriptions was like in the $100 range compared to Squarespace. I was like $200 to $300. Or you can pay $20 for the 1 month and then host on Devlin AI with that devlin.host ending, and you only pay the $20 you paid for Claude. So this option is a lot more affordable. As a career transitioner, when I was starting out, I would have loved an option because building my website was so expensive, but I wanted the customization. So this is a much better option. Yeah, $180 a year on WordPress. And that's just to host it, right? You still have to pay like $15 for your custom domain. If you do a custom domain, like I said, using Devlin AI, you pay for your domain, $72 for the year to host it, maybe $20 for the Claude, the 1 month you use it. Because that's the other thing, when you're using Claude Design, you really only have to pay for it when you're using it. So maybe you pay for 1 month, you build your portfolio website, and then you end your subscription. 6 months later, you want to do some updates, you pay for that month again, do your updates, and then you end your subscription. So you don't have to have a Claude subscription the whole time, right? Like you would with Squarespace to continue with your websites or any website builder. You can just get it as you need it. But it's important, if you do end your subscription, you do want to back up your project and save that file. So we'll show you that. It's nice because Claude added that feature in already. Again, before that, I worked with Claude to get a prompt, but now it's super easy. If you go to share, then you can, they moved it, I think. No. Okay. Oh, maybe, no, okay, it packaged it now again. They keep moving things. They've changed stuff, but there is a way to export it here. It could be this project HTML, or this will do a zip or a standalone now. There used to be, like a few days ago, there was an like export for backup situation. If there isn't, all you do is just tell Claude, I need you to download everything and export it so that I can re-upload it later on. The reason you want to be specific about that is you'll see your pages here, but you also have all your project files. So as you upload things, it's going to grab those and put them as assets. It's going to separate stuff for you. Any other uploads that you have that are just like screenshots, all of your pages, and then the support.javascript is how your page functions. So how it knows to do like scroll animations or anything like that. So you can just tell Claude, package all of these things so that I can, as like a backup file, and then you'll have it, and then you can end your subscription and you just pay for that 1 month. Cool. All right. So let's say we've worked through all of those edits. Our portfolio is ready to export. We're ready to host it. Before we do that, though, we should do a quality check. And so some things that we want to check are our strategy, like how are we approaching these? Does it sound like us? The content, the visual design, the usability, and then technical readiness. That sounds really fancy, but it's just saying like, do the buttons work and things like that. We're going to go through all these pieces. I'll give you some questions that you should ask yourself, some common mistakes that people make, and then a prompt that I would use to fix those errors. We will send out this slide deck as a PDF with the replay, and it'll be in the like YouTube description for the replay. So you'll have it and you'll have all of these prompts as well. So hopefully they're very useful to you. All right, portfolio strategy. You should ask yourself, is it clear what kind of instructional designer I am, right? We've talked a lot about this being personalized and really being specific to you. So does it answer that? And again, this is a check that you're doing. So as you're going through your website yourself, ask yourself these questions. Does the heroes section say something meaningful? Or are we saying creating engaging or captivating learning experiences? Is your strongest project easy to find? Again, if people are only going to look at one project, which is it? I see a lot of websites put their most recent, and maybe that is your strongest project, but really figuring out which one is your strongest, that's showing the most skills, your best work, that make that your feature and make it easy to find. Does the site feel aligned with your target role, client, or employer? So again, if you're targeting a certain industry, is that visible on your website? Or if you're just transitioning from education to corporate, does your portfolio sound more corporate than it does like that education sector? So just making sure that you're really targeting your audience and it's clear. Some common issues are the hero section is vague, creating engaging or captivating learning experiences. Your strongest project is buried. Again, like I said, some people put their most recent, and maybe it's good and it's strong, but if it's not your strongest, then find your strongest and show that one first. Or it feels like a generic template. Again, going through that questionnaire and really talking about who you are, letting Claude get to know you and what you represent as an instructional designer is going to help it feel like you and less like a template. Okay, so here's how you can fix it. Here is a prompt that you might use. Review this portfolio website. So you would use this in Claude, right? Copy it and then paste it into your chat. I'm going to read this and then I have one more thing that I want to say. Review this portfolio website from the perspective of a hiring manager, right? So you can customize that. If it's someone specific that you know is going to be looking at your website, you can change that. Identify where the positioning feels vague, generic, or unclear. Then suggest revisions to the homepage copy so visitors can quickly understand who I am, what kind of instructional design work I create, and why my projects are worth exploring, right? So you can ask AI, go through as this person, give it that role, comb through everything, and suggest changes. In the prompt, I did write suggest revisions because I like to check what AI is saying first and changing. I don't want to have to go in and hunt for those changes. I want it to tell me what it would do first before I say that, because typically I'll like its suggestions, but I still want it to sound like me, so I'll rewrite them in how I want. So that is how I would change the language piece. Give it that role of hiring manager or whoever you're targeting, and let it suggest some revisions, and then you can implement those. If you like what it says, you can just tell it, go ahead and implement those changes. What I was going to say before this was, as you're prompting Claude, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you start new chats. So this one here, you can see the project that I built during the YouTube video has different chats, and some of them don't even have a lot of turns. Doing new chats saves you your tokens and your usage. So you have so much usage as you go through a session. And then once it's up, you have to wait until it resets. So starting a new chat is going to have less like context it's sending back and forth, which won't use your usage up as much. It's also a nice organization tool. So using it to like a new chat for every page or a new chat for a few sections at a time is just nice, because then you can go back and edit in those pieces. If you decide to do something different, you can go back into that chat. So highly recommend using various chats. If you're doing a review, that's a good time to use a different chat. I see lots of people talking about the like contrast things on like the WCAG AA and stuff like that. In this build prompt, there is some stuff in here that does talk about the contrast pieces. I don't remember exactly where it is, but there is some of that in there, and it does tell Claude to build with that in mind. Now, if you go through and change things, it may not consider that, so you may still have to remind it, because again, this still needs like a human touch because it is your portfolio. So you may still have to tell it to check some of those pieces. Okay, content. Things you should ask yourself during this quality check. Does every section have a clear purpose? Don't just add a section because you see it in another website. Does it make sense for you? Does it have a clear purpose for you? Do the project pages explain the problem, solution, process, and results? Right, that is what we've been talking about, right? Not just building something because it's cool, but because there was a problem and we built a solution. So showing that. Being conversational and credible. There's nothing worse than reading something super dry. I personally probably just wouldn't even want to read it anymore. So I don't want that on my portfolio, but then making sure that you're credible, right? Really talking about the things that you did. And does it sound like you? AI can try to be close, but it may not ever sound exactly like you. Although some of them are getting pretty good at understanding your voice and things like that and sounding a little bit more like your writing style, but you want to make sure it sounds like you. Common issues, again, there's that engaging or captivating learning experiences. So it doesn't really sound like you, it sounds generic. Too much biography in the about section. It's okay to talk about who you are, where you've come from, how that background has helped shape your instructional design work or all of the ID work that you have done. But putting too much in there can slow things down. Really just talk about the work that you do. Find nice ways to change the layout so that it's easy for people to scan, using maybe call out boxes or bullet points to break up some of those pieces. And again, yeah, don't just talk about the tools you use, but really those decisions that you made, right? Common issues are people talk about using Claude Design, but they don't talk about why they did. So here's a fix. Suggest revisions on the copy of this portfolio site so it sounds more specific, natural, and credible. Remove generic phrases like engaging learning experiences unless they are supported by specific examples. Keep the tone professional, conversational, and clear. So again, it's going to go through and suggest revisions. You decide what you want to change and what you like as is, but we're just asking it to make some of those suggestions. Okay, visual design. Does it match the style that you wanted? Is the font easy to read? We just saw on the one that I had, it was too light and kind of small, so that was a good check. Is there enough spacing between sections? I saw that as a suggestion, adding more white space, so that would have been something for us to do also. Do buttons and links stand out? If everything looks like a button, then nothing looks like a button. Having tags up here, if this would have been in a rectangle, it would have looked clickable like these pieces. Sorry, excuse me. And then it would be hard to tell what is clickable. So making sure your buttons and links stand out. Common issues that the colors feel random. Maybe you have a color palette, but it's not sure or it's not clear how cohesive that palette is supposed to work together or what's happening. Spacing is inconsistent. Claude does a pretty good job when it's first building it of keeping spacing between sections really even. The part that I have noticed it struggles with is the margin. So down the side of your web page, some sections might be wider than others. So telling it to keep that the same is important. Project cards can be hard to scan. So if you have lots of projects, maybe it kind of cramps them together and it's hard to see the projects and giving them their own space and breathing room, their own time in the light to shine. Those are some common issues that I've seen with portfolio websites. This one, this one is a big one too. The page looks polished at the top, but weaker at the bottom. I think this one is coming just from my own editing my own website. You have all these creative ideas, right? And you put all the energy in as you're working from the top to the bottom on these sections. But as you get to the bottom, you may start to just say, make it look good. And then it's not clear, right? It doesn't have that same visual style all the way through, and it's clear, right, that you kind of stopped towards the bottom. So making sure that you are giving the same level of polish through your whole website. And then, of course, you would want to talk to it about this contrast. I think I even have that in the export prompts as well about the contrast checkers. Yeah, the accessibility stuff. I think it looks for at least AA. If you want to be more strict and do like the AAA levels, you can tell it that, but right now it does check for AA. Okay, to fix some of those visual design pieces that I talked about, you can tell it to recommend improvements to the visual polish of this website while keeping the current structure. So not letting it restructure everything unless you wanted to. Focus on spacing, typography, hierarchy. So making sure that our headings and body text are different and clear. Section balance, so making sure it doesn't feel just weird, something's heavy when it shouldn't be, pulling too much attention. Button styling, project card consistency, remove any decorative elements that do not support the content. Now that's just a suggestion. On the website that I am creating for myself using Claude Design, I do have some like outline shapes that kind of fill some white space. They don't necessarily support the content, right? Because they're just some squares and rectangles. But how I'm using them is to draw the eye towards the text. So the like direction that those shapes go is pointing towards the text. So it's not supporting it specifically because I'm talking about circles and rectangles, but the direction of it is drawing the eye back to the text. So in that case, those design elements are okay. So you can still have decorative pieces, just make sure they have a purpose. Usability, important, right? We don't want someone to go on our website and things just aren't working. Because again, your website may be the first part of work that they see of yours, and we don't want them to give them a bad impression about the work you do, because your work is probably great and you don't want your portfolio to be standing in the way. So ask yourself, is the navigation clear? Are your buttons visible? Those call to actions, are those visible? Can they easily get to your featured project? Does the mobile version work well? So like I showed you, we can look at it by doing present, new tab, goes to those developer tools. I'm right clicking, we can do inspect, and we can check to make sure the mobile version is working well. Common issues, CTA buttons are too vague. So you've probably seen buttons that say go or something like that. But like go where? Where is that going? Or email. Does that mean it's taking me to your email address so that then I can send you an email later? Or is it going to open up the email tool on my computer? We want to be specific, right? So get in touch, contact me, view project, learn more. Having those descriptive buttons are important and helpful. This one, usability piece. So project button only appears once. This is talking about your project write-up. Maybe you have a button at the top that says try the project and then one at the end. If someone is taking the time to go through your write-up and scan through those pieces, adding more of those project buttons throughout is helpful because again, we're directing them to our strongest work to just see it for themselves. The mobile menu is awkward. Claude is pretty good at creating those mobile menus. But if it is acting weird, I take a screenshot, tell Claude what it's doing, show it the screenshot, and then it fixes it. So making sure that it's not pushing content down or has too many links or is overlapping content and there's a bunch of words jumbled up or something. So that is a common issue where those mobile menus are not great, but Claude can fix those pretty nicely. All right, a prompt to fix it. Review this site for usability, make sure the navigation is clear, the main project is easy to access, buttons are specific and visible, the contact section is easy to find, and the mobile experience feels smooth and polished. One thing that is kind of cool about Claude, as I've been working with it more and more, as it's testing its own stuff, it takes screenshots of the site itself and reviews those. So that's kind of how it's making sure that it's doing exactly what you want to. You'll see it as it's talking to itself on the side versus like now doing this, and you'll see little things coming up. It'll take screenshots, look at it itself, review it, fix anything that it finds. So you can tell it, find these things, fix them, and it will. Okay, I know we're running out of time. If you have to drop out at the hour, totally understand. We will share the replay. But I do want to save some time for other questions if we have them. Okay, the last one, technical readiness. This one, like I said, is pretty easy. You don't want to send out a portfolio website if it still says like add image here. That's not a good look. So make sure your placeholders are replaced. Do your links open correctly. So if it's a project link, you want to make sure it's going to your project. Do your site links go to the right page? If we press about, does it take us to the about or does it take us to featured or something? Common issues, placeholder text is still visible. Mobile menu doesn't match the desktop version. This happened in one of the ones that I was working on. I removed a link, but it stayed in the mobile menu. So I had like 2 contact links. So making sure that those match is good. And then buttons not having links, right? They click it and it feels dead, like it doesn't work. How to fix it? Perform a final technical quality check on this portfolio website. Verify that all buttons have visible hover states. Like I was saying, it was not doing that before. All external links use this coding here. You don't really need to know what this means. It's just saying that it's going to open in a new tab and then that it's putting stuff in the right spot. Every section has an explicit background color. Before, it was not adding background colors in this prompt that I was first using. It does now in this one. And so what that does is if someone has like dark mode set on their computer and there's no background, it will change the background to black, and any black text now disappears. So adding a background color is important so that it looks exactly how you want on every device. The mobile menu works, the footer stacks cleanly, so your links at the bottom aren't all messed up in mobile. It will make those nice. And then here we have that it meets the WCAG AA contrast guidelines. So this is kind of like that last check at the end. All right, and then we talked about the starter tier. All right, that was a lot. I really appreciate you sticking through it, and I hope there was some really good takeaways. I am happy to stay a few minutes left or stay back a few minutes and ask some questions if you guys have them. I know that was a lot. So let's see. What about credit use? Are there tricks to edit methods to minimize their usage? So yeah, good question. Let me go here. So there were a couple that I showed, but I'll do a quick little reminder. So the main one for sure is using new chats. Keeping your chats shorter is pretty good. I don't think I try not to let a chat go more than like 40 turns, but keeping chats shorter is a good way to save your usage. You can always check your usage by like clicking your initial up here and going to usage. The other way that I will save my usage is doing those direct edits like I showed earlier. So up here is the edit button. Like if I'm going to just change the wording here, I can type that in myself. If I want to change the color, I can change that. If this button or this picture, I would rather have rounded edges, I would go into the editor and change that here with the radius, the pixels. So like maybe I want it to be 10 instead. And then save it. Like I would go in and use that editor to change some of those pieces. You can even do it for things like the background of this section. So all I'm doing is clicking and changing it. Changing manually does not use any of your credits. So if there are things, like I said, like text that you want to change, doing that instead of telling Claude to do it is a good way to save your tokens and your usage. Does creating a website in Claude Design use up many of the credits available? I was able to build the website that I showed you guys on YouTube before my usage ran out. The first time that I built the website, I did run out of usage when I got to the project write-up page because I kept doing lots of prompting to like fix small things or like the hover buttons that weren't working. It was a lot of back and forth to figure out why with Claude. That I did run out of usage, but once I hit my usage, I didn't have a project write-up yet or any screenshots of my project. So when that usage hit, I think I still had to wait like an hour and a half. I went and did my project write-up, gathered my screenshots, and by that time, my usage was reset. So then I came back and used it. I've never, and that's just for like the session. So like when you have that small like few hours of work that you can do. I've never ran out for like the week or anything like that building the website. Or any of the projects so far. Can we do this in Claude, or it must be done in Claude Design? So in like the regular like Claude chat, it can help you plan out prompts to build them. But if you want to be able to see what you're building and actually build something, that is going to have to be in Claude Design. So one of its templates is Prototype, which makes an interactive HTML project. So that will have to be done in Claude Design. If you are more into the like coding and programming side of things, you could use Claude Code and it will show you some of those other, it'll try to show you it locally, like on your device, and you can see what it's building. So that's an option too. I like using Claude Design because you can see it right away and you can make those manual edits. It makes it easier. But if you wanted your website as a code base, Claude Design and Claude Code do talk to each other, and they've made it easier so that you can send things back and forth to work on it. Once you publish, can you use it on an already existing domain that you've purchased? Yes, you can. Let me show you. So too many tabs open. All right, so on hosting, this root domain that I have here, sabrinagLXD.com, is my domain. And you can just add your domain here. It takes you through the steps to do it. I chose to do a subdomain only because my current portfolio is still live on my regular domain. But once that one is gone, I can just host on my regular domain. Yeah, and you just add add domain, you type it in. Whatever you do type in, though, it's going to take over here, and that other one will no longer take you to that website, which is why I did like a subdomain. And then you'll type it in, press continue, and it'll give you some of the steps that you need to follow on wherever you have your domain from. And then it connects, and you can see right here, it says live. So it's live. So when you publish from Claude Design, you can bring it into devlin.host and then use your own custom domain. Do you ask for a master HTML file? I'm guessing you're asking about when you export it at the end. When you are publishing it for hosting, you can use either of these options. But like I said, it looks like they've added that in also of doing this project HTML, either doing zipped or standalone. If you are talking about for the export, though, you can tell Claude to do that. So you can say, please package all files in this project so that I have a backup. It needs to include all pages and files. Zip the package. So you can just tell it something like that, and it's going to grab everything. So these pages, and then all of the files. And then you just save that somewhere where you won't forget it. And then you can take it and upload it again to Claude Design when you get a new subscription and you want to use it there. All right. And then I think this will probably be the last question. If you already have a portfolio website, could you ask Claude to use this site and its contents to create a draft? You absolutely can. It can find those websites. So let me do this. Okay, you guys are seeing my screen already. So yeah, you can tell it. Yeah, if I do, let's see, I don't know how long this will take though. Rebuild the home page from SabrinaGLXD.com. And it will attempt it. It's probably going to take a while, but it can access those websites and find them. The other thing that I've been doing, I'm going to let it do that. It's probably going to take too long. The other thing that I have been doing though with my own website, I'm completely redesigning my website. So different color palette, everything. But there's a lot of the content that I don't want to recopy. So I'm just taking screenshots of my website and I put those in Claude, and it pulls all of the text from there. And it can even save the layout if I wanted to, but it can access websites. You can give it your URL and it will find it from there. It might not get it completely perfect, but then you just prompt and change things. So good question. Yeah, you can have it do that. And even just from screenshots, it's really good at reading screenshots and pulling everything over. All right. I appreciate all of you sticking with me. Again, I know that was a lot of information. Watch the replay, dig through it as you build your websites, and share them. If you're sharing your portfolio website on LinkedIn, tag me. I want to see them. I want to see all the cool stuff you're making. Be sure to check out the last video that I made where I shared this whole process on how to get started with your portfolio website and went through the full build and hosting. And then make sure you go to devlin.host so that you can host your project, host your portfolio and your projects, and even check out the Devlin AI simulations if you haven't checked those out already. If you are building your portfolio website for the first time or just getting into instructional design and looking for some support in doing that, consider checking out PEC Academy, our licensed career school, because we have applications open for our next launch, and we would be happy to see you there and help you out. And you'll be sent to the devlin.host site after this so that you can learn more about that to host your projects and portfolios. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you around. Bye.